Hi, I'm Yasmin Owusu, and this is my producer, Charlie Kesenek.
But I'm your husband, and you're using all my stuff right now. What are you talking about?
So anyway, I've been looking for a one-stop shop podcast for wellness, amateur sociology, psychology, pop culture, and whatever else sparks my interest. So I created one. We are limited to no lanes. We hit the gas and get into it. This is Peaked. Press play. Hi, welcome to Peaked Podcast. I'm Yasmin, and we are back for another week of Peaked. And how's everyone doing? I'm doing fine. I'm doing that kind of like tight, high-pitched fine. Fine. I'm doing good. That kind of a million asterisks, like fine considering all the flaming dumpster fires like right behind me kind of thing. I'm sure a lot of you relate to that. It's a very, very squeaky, high-pitched, very, I'm baking sourdough. I'm making my own, branch or whatever the hell you're doing during fascism. That's the kind of fine I am. But I have noticed, I'm going to move on to my champagne problems because the Bud Light ones are a little too dark. And I don't think I have enough like memory sticks in the world to get through a podcast about all that stuff, right? Like that'd be like 7 years. So we'll move on. I have noticed lately that my caffeine intake, my caffeine obsession is like ramping up somewhat. I do have a bit of a history of like caffeine issues. Like in my teens and early 20s, I was like kind of a maniac. Like I was drinking pots of coffee at night. This probably was all very like tied into both OCD and ED, which actually are kind of, it seems like maybe they were pretty connected too. But that barring that, which I would say kind of worked its way out and like when I was like 24 or so, I've been kind of like a one coffee in the morning and then like a, midday slump. And to me, midday more meaning like, 3 o'clock or something, slump coffee. And then since I moved to Texas, I've kind of slipped in these Diet Cokes here and there too. And that's a whole thing. I was never like a soda person in adult life, like past like, very early 20s. I was always very seltzer, like it's just a grapefruit seltzer was my thing, a spindrift at most. But since I moved here, people are so excited about these Diet Cokes that you start to get FOMO. And then it's a lot like coffee or Red Bull in that way, or even drinking alcohol. When you first drink it, it doesn't objectively taste good, but the more that you drink it, the more it just starts to make sense to you. And that's kind of what happened to me with Diet Coke. Like I had all these like young coworkers and working in restaurants or something, and like they'd all just kind of be like, "Oh my God, that freezer siggy," that's what they would call these Diet Cokes. And the next thing I know, I'm just like really into them. But still, even with that, I'm keeping it to like one a day, two max. So until really recently, I've been like a coffee in the morning, a cafecito in the afternoon, one well-placed Diet Coke throughout there or whatever. But lately, I don't know, like another one is creeping its way in there. And then maybe like a black tea that is caffeinated and maybe sometimes a matcha. So like I think I'm maxing out at like 4 to 5, let's say 5. That's like when I'm absolutely unhinged. Let's say 5 caffeinated beverages a day. And I'm including Diet Coke, which is like not insanely high in caffeine, but I don't know, man. I think it might be transference from like not drinking and not chemically necessarily. I would say like my morning coffee is an addiction coffee. That is like, it constitutes me as a human. It like puts me back from like the ether right back into my skin and allows me to like walk the earth. So that's a very high stakes coffee. The other one, I don't really know that I chemically need it. Like I think my energy would come up on its own. And if I don't have it, I don't feel really dysregulated necessarily. I think it's a bit of I'm not doing anything that is mind altering or like changes my mental state in any way, right? And I think if you smoke weed or like, you're someone who drinks, like there's this idea that you can just like change your state of mind or like the way you feel. Like so whenever I'm having that moment in the day where either I'm feeling squirrely or like, a bit of a bad mood or a little bit bored, it's like this thing that I'm like, it can hocus pocus change my focus. Like I can kind of like switch my vibes around. And then also it's just like something to break up the day, something to do ritualistically, something to get excited to. It's also like a treat. So I think it's all very in that realm. It's like for a lot of the same reasons why I'd be like, oh, it's like 5 or 6. Maybe I'll make myself a margarita. Like it's like, I just want to change up my day. I just want to like kind of feel differently. And it's the only mind altering substance I'm doing, right? So like there's that. But maybe I shouldn't be doing as many. As I was saying this, though, I'm like, what really is the problem, though? Because I'm still going to sleep on time. Like, I'm not like cracked out. I'm not like Jesse Spano on Saved by the Bell, where I'm so excited and so scared. Like, nothing's happening. Like, I go to sleep at 11:30 every night. I, wake up refreshed. I like have good quality sleep. Way better than when I was drinking, I'll tell you that. So I don't know. Maybe in the words of Ramona Singer, it's not a problem till it's a problem. Granted, she did use that phrase when she was trying to force her daughter into an acting career and her daughter was concerned about missing school. But I'm still going to apply it. I'm still going to apply it. It applies here. But while we're on coffee, Austin, where I live, Austin, Texas, did get named the top coffee city in the US. I don't really know by who, but like some prominent entity. Like, let's say it's like Infatuation or something like that. Maybe Time Out New York. I don't know. But I just have to say, I almost said disrespectfully. I respectfully disagree. And not to say that Austin doesn't have good coffee. It does. I have a lot of pleasant coffees here. And it's that high pitched, like, yeah, yeah, coffee's good. It's good. It's good. Listen, coming from New York City, and I know that it's a subjective thing. And my taste of coffee, I wouldn't say that I'm getting as high quality of that as I was getting in New York City. Like, and there's many different muscles for coffee, and I do acknowledge that. Like, in New York, I would have my like bodega coffee or iced coffee without the D, iced coffee, right? From the bodega. And that was like one thing, right? And then, you could kind of get these like sort of Hispanic slant coffees, like you get a Mexican coffee somewhere, or like or Cuban coffee, whatever. And then, I had my Second Street espresso, which was like just this perfect flat white. Like it's just this little place in Lower Manhattan, and it's just a corridor with like no seats. And like at the end of the corridor is like the barista, and they hand you this little flat white. I mean, that's what I would order. They hand you whatever you order, I imagine. But and it's just like glass on top, like brown honey, like deep local looking honey brown crema with like not a bubble on it, just like absolute microfoam glass. And you just drink it and it just like changes your molecular structure. And like you just, I don't know, you like levitate. So that was my thing. God, I'm talking about it. I'm just like missing it right now. But that was my thing. So here, every barista is very proficient. I'm not saying that people do not know how to make coffee here. People know how to pull a shot. They will draw you the Sistine Chapel on top of your coffee cup. They know what they're doing. I think it's a bean problem, frankly. Like the beans are not for me. Like I think it's very there was this one kind of coffee, and again, I'm not going to name check anybody negatively because I'm not trying to mess with anyone's business. And these places have an audience and they have people that like it and it's valid, so they don't deserve to be panned. But there is this one kind of coffee that was like pervasive in New York City when I was living there. They were just kind of getting into every coffee shop, and it wasn't my thing. And a lot of it was like these Ethiopian beans. And again, I'm not knocking Ethiopian coffee because I lived in Ethiopia when I was a little kid. And the way that they make it traditionally, oh, it's rich, it's delicious, it's toasty. I think they make it on like either like coal or something like that. Either way, it's delicious. But there's a certain kind of Ethiopian bean. And I'm not trying to sound like a coffee sommelier. I've just gotten in the weeds because I'm such a crackhead for coffee right now that it's getting really myopic and really specific. So just go with me. But it's very like fruity, it's smooth, but it doesn't have this like touches every area of your palate. Like it just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like this like rich, deep flavor. Like Charlie and I have this phrase. We got it from watching this Gael Garcia Bernal show. I don't remember the name of it, but we watched it a long time ago. And there was this character, like he is an orchestral conductor. And there's this oboist, Haley Rutledge, and it's funny because he says Ayla Rutledge, like that's how you pronounce her name. Anyway, he would say that she played with the blood. And so Charlie, like it became our echolalia, like it's like found its way into our verbiage where like we talk about things having the blood or not having the blood. And the coffee here doesn't have the blood. That's the last time I'll say it that way. I promise you. Um, there's just something missing. And it's not just kick you in the face caffeination. You can find that here. You can find just a bitter, like kick you in the face with caffeine and like you're cracked out for days cold brew. Absolutely. It's not that. It's something else. It's something in the flavor. And like I've actually thought that maybe there's something going on with the hard water or something. Like living in New York City, and that's the last time I'll say living in New York City too. I'm insufferable with that. But it's Catskills water and it's good water, and, like, here it's hard water and it doesn't taste good. So I wonder if maybe that contributes because I have tried one of the chains that I liked in New York City, like, that wasn't like, my Second Street espresso that I talked about, my levitation, but it was like a really solid chain and it was like really good and the beans were good was La Colombe. And they have that here. And they also have this other place, Intelligentsia here. And I like that stuff. And this is not me knocking it because I think it's a good place. Like I liked going there. I like their stuff. Doesn't taste the same here. And I'm wondering if maybe there's something in the water or if I'm just like losing my mind because all I have like to look forward to is these coffees. And so I'm just becoming like insanely myopic and insufferable with this. But I also do feel like all the places that they name checked as like the best ones rely heavily on like syrups, right? So it's like, oh yeah, there's cereal milk, um, like blueberry, lavender cold foam latte. Like, well, I guess that's not me. That's not what I'm looking for. I just want the coffee to be good. I'm very simple. I always order the same thing. I order like a cortado. I order like a flat white. I'm like not into the concoctions, right? So maybe that's where like, we're not meeting in the middle. I felt that way a little bit about cocktails here too, where like the palate in Austin and maybe in Texas in general, from what I'm observing, is very sweet. And it's very people are really into like sugary, like, everything is kind of like a gingerbread house in terms of flavor profile. So like maybe I'm just like the wrong audience. So yeah, I don't know. But I have found my spots. Like there's this Latina lady that has like a coffee shop and like her slant is like more like a Cuban coffee. And again, it's a different muscle. It's not like my same Second Street espresso stuff, but it's like this its own thing. And I really like that. And there's a couple spots like this place Talisman that I really love that's like local. And I have a couple of places, but I will say overall that I'm not ready to name Austin the best coffee city in the U.S. In fact, even in Texas, I feel like when I was driving here, moving here, I have better coffees on my road trip arriving here than I've had here overall. So I don't know. I just don't agree. But I will move on from that. I want to talk a little bit about. So there was the roast of Kevin Hart this past week. And I didn't end up watching it. I'll explain. But I did see a bunch of clips of it, like online. I was just seeing a lot of clips of it. When I first started seeing them, like I saw Chelsea Handler kind of like really pinning Tony Hinchcliffe of Kill Tony fame or whatever, or also just being in like that group of, Austin comics or whatever. She just like really went for him and in a way that I found really satisfying. And then I saw a clip of Cat Williams. When I saw him, I was like sold. I like texted Charlie, producer husband Charlie, and I was like, I'm gonna make us burritos. We're gonna come home. We're gonna watch the roast of Cat Williams. I was all in, right? And I watched the clip, and a pretty long one. I watched almost all of it. And basically, he's been talking cash money or cat money shit about Kevin Hart on any outlet that will allow him to speak for quite a while now. So watching him just do it in front of him, in front of all his peers, and getting paid for it was like, again, very satisfying. And then I always find Shane Gillis pretty funny, and I saw that he was going to be on it, and so whatever. I was like sold. Then as the day progressed, as we're getting closer and closer to Charlie being done with his lessons, and I'm like getting closer and closer to be finishing making these burritos, I start to see more clips, and these jokes are just. Oh, I was like, I don't know if I do want to watch this. I mean, there was a joke about lynching. There was a joke about George Floyd's murder, and just a lot of black jokes that were like, just black people are criminals, haha. I don't know. So I just kind of like texted Charlie like a string of these clips, or just like an edit of a bunch of these that someone had put up because they felt similarly to the way that I feel. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm good on watching this. And because I do put out content, meaning this podcast, and then also sometimes my clips and things that I put on TikTok around this podcast, you start to get this 360 view, or this like almost predictive view of what is going to happen when you post something, right? So I was like, yeah, I don't want to watch this. And I thought if I did decide to discuss it, maybe I should watch it in its entirety and then discuss it after the fact rather than just going on clips, right? And my thought was like, oh my God, if I like, if I actually do watch this and decide to like break it down, it's going to be all this kind of comment. It's like, I know when I like talk about certain male actors, when I posted recently an episode where I talked about Shia LaBeouf, whatever, it's going to get a lot of these like, guys who like, are like basically living in Shia LaBeouf's ass, or just gonna be like, oh, what do you have nothing better to do than like talk shit about Shia? Like, I know the kinds of comments I'm gonna get. You just really learn to get a nose for it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a lot of these, you must be fun at parties type of comments. And it made me really think. So I acknowledge that I think ahead about that and I know about that, but it didn't stop me from talking about this. I decided that I did not care to watch that. I don't care to consume that content. It doesn't align with me, and so I just chose not to watch it. Overall, I don't want to put, I don't want to put my money in the pocket of whoever thought that was a good thing to put out. So I chose not to watch it. But I'm not going to not talk about stuff like that because of this kind of commentary, right? And like, I actually know that I won't, but then I'm investigating, why am I even thinking about that? About the like, you must be fun at parties. Like, I don't care if someone thinks I'm fun at parties or not. And it just like made me think of this like broader thing that doesn't just have to do with comedy, doesn't just have to do with like content or whatever, of like, there's this pervasive pressure to act nonchalant, unbothered, aloof, down to clown about everything all the time. And if you're not, you're like a drag or whatever. And I just like, it just made me think like, when did the worst thing ever become being seen as like, I don't know, not just like whatever about everything. Like, I absolutely have lines. I absolutely have things that I don't find funny. I absolutely have things that I take seriously. And when did it become this expectation that you never take anything seriously? And I have noticed, like, you see people's like Hinge profiles or whatever. My friends will sometimes be scrolling through them, and like so many of these of people's like things, like, I want a girl who doesn't take herself so seriously. What is it about having a point of view, having opinions, and like having things that you hold sacred that is so offensive and triggering to people? I don't know. I don't know when that really just became something that's like completely unacceptable. And I don't even think it's just by the people who are holding that expectation of us, right? So I'm not going to just say all the like, bro edgelords who are going to come in my comment section and be like, she has no sense of humor, she must be fun at parties. Not even just them. When to people like me who are talking about things did we start to internalize this idea that like it's so important for us to seem like permissive and just like lackadaisical about everything? If you can't laugh about lynching, then what can you laugh about, right? I mean, listen, I'm happy to go on record and say I find absolutely nothing funny about a lynching joke. I'm African, by the way. I do not have a history. I mean, I'm on the wrong side of the history of the transatlantic slave trade, if anything. I'm from Ghana, right? And so, it's called a slave trade firm. We're a little complicit, let's say. So, like, I don't really necessarily have this history in my lineage, right? Of this, Jim Crow South and these lynchings. And I don't have that history, but I have enough knowledge of it to find it absolutely horrible and not funny. So all these people who are born and raised in this country and they think that that's a funny thing to laugh about, in what world? I mean, I'm sorry, that's just not where my yuck yucks live. And if it's where your yuck yucks live, I'm not going to say have at it. I don't care to associate with that. And I am not uncomfortable saying so. And if someone thinks that's a drag, we don't like the same kind of parties. I don't like lynching joke parties. Are you nuts? And like jokes about George Floyd's murder at the hand of the police. Like, police brutality is a very real thing that is putting fear into people's hearts day in and day out, and has had horrible results, and people have died, right? So yeah, excuse me if it's just not it's not the thing that when I decide to decompress at the end of the day with my husband with a burrito that I necessarily want coming across my screen. I worked so hard actually not to see that footage. It was being shoved in my face so much at the time. I didn't want to see that man die on camera. I'm not into snuff films, and I'm not into posthumously making a joke out of them either. Whatever that makes me as a person, if that makes me like some, I don't know, shrew, spinster, not funny, I could not give one solitary rat's fuck I'm probably going to swear more on this episode than I have in the entirety of my podcast so far, because it really just, the entire dialogue that went through my head just I got on my own nerves. I got on my own nerves. And it made me think about other areas that this exists too. It's like when I was still in the dating scene, right? There was this around relationships too. Like when you're with a guy, like you're supposed to, there's this pick me, like, just act like the cool girl, that whole Gone Girl speech about acting like the cool girl. It's a similar like stew of this. You're supposed to just act not unbothered all the time. You're supposed to be like, no, I'm easygoing with things. I don't know when easygoing became like the biggest, like, indicator of you being a good person or someone who's valid as a person. Like, I don't know. I don't identify as being easygoing. I'm confrontational as fuck. Like, and I'm down to have a conversation about something I'm not into. I absolutely have boundaries in a relationship. I absolutely find certain things to be disrespectful in a relationship. And I absolutely don't care if that makes you think I'm hashtag not fun. Like, I'm not Amanda Batula. Amanda, not Yasmin, not fun. Fine. I'll not be fun over being like pervasively disrespected. There seems to be this like, yeah, like I said, this pressure coming at us to act aloof to everything. And it's a way of almost taking your agency and your ability to defend yourself away. Like, I think so many people, probably so many women, so many people of color felt this pressure to just say the roast was funny because they don't want to be seen as those people that are uptight, that are too woke, that are too this, that are too that. I'd rather have principles than seem like the coolest, like chill about everything chick. I could care less about that. I'm not going to laugh at something that's like abhorrent and disgusting. By the way, my reaction to most of this stuff was not offense. I was not clutching my pearls. It was just like, ew. Like, have you ever been in one of those situations where, like, somehow, like, through a person, you end up around a bunch of people or in some kind of, situation or in some contingent that you just feel like you almost want to take a shower. Like you just feel like you're around degenerates that you don't want to associate with. Like that's essentially how I felt. I was like, oh, this is like a bunch of like gross, lazy people who like they need to get a reaction. They don't know how. They don't have natural charisma. They're not naturally funny. So all they have is to push the limits, force people into suppressing offense. And that's the only way to like, they almost force them to laugh because the alternative is that they're uptight. So the only way you can get a laugh essentially is if someone feels like they're going to be accused of being a stick in the mud if they don't laugh. I mean, wouldn't it just be better if you just, I don't know, you had natural charisma, you're just funny or something? I mean, so many people who participated in that roast were just that, right? They're just people who like, I don't know, can tell jokes, like don't feel the need to be some like dork edgelord. And that's just, I don't know, it just kind of made me feel that way. And it's also something I've noticed like that crops up in like just general interactions. Like I feel like people often, when you put out content, let's say, when I put out my clips, let's say on TikTok or whatever, people have this tendency, they obviously respond to your content because it elicits something in them. I don't want to say triggers necessarily. I mean, it just activates them in some way. It makes them want to react to it. If it didn't, they would scroll by, right? So something about it made them want to insert themselves, but they want to approach it in a way that they want to come in seeming like easy breezy, not bothered, and they want to poke you until you have a reaction, then be like, ooh, I struck a nerve, huh? You came in here as a whole struck nerve. You literally approached me like a struck nerve, and you're gaslighting me now into being like, oh, well, you're getting all hecked up. Oh, guess I struck a nerve. You came here to do that. And why would a person come to try to provoke someone other than that person has provoked something in them that makes them feel confrontational? By the way, I'm totally, like I said, I'm down for confrontation. There are people who've just said to me in comments things very directly, like where I think this is stupid. I think this is not true. I think this is reductive. I can go back and forth with that all day long and respectfully. People can disagree. I think when you try to come with this thing of like, yeah, babes. I mean, this language of calling everyone babes, this patronizing language, is passive aggressive. Like, I'm just being chill, babe. Like, there's this hope this helps kind of energy that I could do without. if you want to go toes, if you want to have an opinion, a point of view, be ready for someone to have a counterpoint. And like, that's how I feel with this like kind of comedy. It's like, you want a reaction, you're going to get one. You're trying to push buttons, you're trying to push boundaries, there's going to be pushback to that. And I'm not mad at being the pushback. I'll be the one. I'll be the stick in the mud. I'll be like an entire forest in the mud. And I have no issue with being that. When did that become the scariest thing to be? Is someone who doesn't have a sense of humor about murder and lynching. My God. But yeah, mostly my reaction, I was just so grossed out. And it actually reminded me of this clip that I saw. There was an Eastern European comic, and I won't bother to find a note on who he is. I don't know his comedy well enough, so I actually don't want to make any commentary about what his comedy is usually, and it's not necessary for what I'm going to say. So anyway, this is Eastern European comic, I think fairly well known. His name sounded vaguely familiar to me. And he's talking to Bobby Lee, comedian Bobby Lee, on some podcast. Maybe it was Bobby Lee's podcast. And he's like making a joke, and it's meant as a joke, where he's like, you know, that you're really comfortable with another one of your white friends, or, Bobby Lee's Korean, so I don't know. Either way, he's like, you know, you're comfortable to your friend when you first use the N-word together or in front of each other. And Bobby Lee's reaction was just kind of like, nah, man, I'm not into that. I'm not into whatever this Austin. It's funny. Austin has this Rogansphere, mothership, edgelord comedian kind of kill Tony contingent or whatever. Anyway, he's like, I'm not into whatever y'all are doing over there in Austin where you're being edgelords and you're just like saying all this sick shit trying to get a reaction. I'm not into that. It's not my thing. Like, we're not doing that together. And it's a very normal thing to say in many ways, right? He's just like, I don't say the N-word. I don't think that's funny. But the fact that it felt like such an anomaly speaks volumes, because we've become used to no one doing that. No one just like pumping the brakes. Like, I've seen so many times comedians that are on, certain podcasts. And again, I won't get into name checking all of them, who maybe have even been in this group in some way, who I see certain things being said when they're on this podcast. And, it's a podcast that can help their career. It's really prominent. It's one of the most listened to like in the world, right? So I understand on some level why they feel like it's good to be on it. It's good to get their profile up. And I can see in their faces when they're hearing certain things and certain jokes that they're just kind of like, And in that moment, they just don't want to seem, I don't know, triggered, too woke, whatever it is. And so they just let it pass. So it's to a point where something as simple as being like, I don't find saying the N-word funny, feels like, I don't know, like we got to give this guy like the biggest parade through town for simply being like, I don't use the N-word. I don't think it's funny too. Like, can you imagine that being like some gold standard of something, to the point where it was like so notable that it became a clippable thing, and it was notable enough to me. And I think that's kind of where we're at. And I do see some of the people who have been in this contingent that I mentioned of Austin comedians and edgelords or whatever. I see them over time kind of trying to differentiate themselves a little bit. And I don't completely think all of it is just in bad faith, because things are I don't think it's all because perception is changing on them. I think a lot of people were of the mind that everything shouldn't be so precious all the time. We should be able to laugh through our difficult moments. We should be able to have dark humor. And listen, me and my friends in our chats, me and my sister, I mean, we are absolutely unhinged with the things we joke about. Like, I'm sure a lot of people would find the things that we joke about and the things that we say dark, offensive, like whatever it is. I've gotten through most of the roughest times in my life with humor. Me and my sister managed to find a way to crack each other up at my dad's funeral. And yes, my dad was like the most important thing in our world. It is how I get actually through hard things. Like, humor is how I get through hard things. So I think a lot of people thought that's what we're doing here. We're breaking down the barriers. We're making nothing impossible to say. We're making everybody lampoonable. Everybody is able to be made fun of. Nobody is safe from being made fun of. We're all drawing everybody into it. Everyone's equal, fair game, meritocracy, right? I think a lot of the people who are of that mind are realizing that's not what these other ones are doing. There's something else going on with them. There's some kind of insecurity, some kind of like sad little incel in there who just feels inadequate, has some kind of like, I don't know, coolness, interestingness wound, doesn't have enough natural charisma, like I mentioned before, that they're finding this low hanging fruit. They're trying to get any reaction, whether it's a bad one. And maybe it's just a lack of inherent talent. Um, and they know that this is just kind of a easy cheater way to get at it. If it's just because the offense is so shocking that it just makes people like almost nervous laugh, or it's just so shocking to hear that maybe people find it refreshing in that way, but like the joke itself is like, it doesn't really have, there's not much there. Um, and then also, like I said, I think a lot of us have felt pressured to laugh at things that we don't even really get what the punchline is, because we just don't want to be the person ruining everyone's fun or everyone's just like irreverence, right? And so it just becomes this thing where it's just like lazy. And I don't think we need to dig our heels in with just being the one who's like so unbothered. This chronic unbotheredness. I am bothered. I mean, look around you. Look what being unbothered, look where it's gotten us. Good God, get bothered, get activated. Like I said last week, clock in, dude. Have an opinion, have a point of view, stand behind it. If you think that this roast was gross, say it was gross. Let people call you unfun. I'm down with it. Come at me, bro. I don't care. I'm undefeated in the comment section, by the way. I know there's other like comment section heavyweights out there, and like, please, like, let me know if you're one of those. I have had so many people come at me in a way that is not constructive, is like negative, whatever. I will absolutely eviscerate. And like, I know that I use the big word. I can be really articulate when I want to here, and I can express myself in a very, whatever, pedantic, maybe even way. Who knows, even pretentious. I can do that. I can also do the other thing. I can really cut it short and just give you like a good string of curses and check you to the boards. And I'm very willing to do that, by the way. I think I don't know if it's like also that I have these like chubby cheeks and friendly face, but people often think that like I'm the one, and they're gonna get a little poke in, and I'm just gonna be like, I don't know, laugh it off or brush. No, honey. Like I will absolutely 100% check you into the boards. And I don't mind if I'm a drag for it. I don't mind. I don't mind. I mean, the stakes are too high. We have way too much going on to be unbothered. Why are we propping up apathy? Why are we propping up blind compliance? You know, these, whatever, these incel maniacs who have just decided we all have to laugh at the most disgusting things ever and like listen to them just like hurl lazy, stupid, reductive, fucking played out, dried up, crusty jokes. I mean, all they ever have to say about a woman is that like she has an enormous cavernous vagina. She's had 1,000 abortions and she's old. And you know what? A well-constructed joke about those things, fine. I don't even find them particularly offensive. It's like, it's just, it's all you got, and it just, is there a possibility? I want the incels to lean into me now before you like, ring my little like YouTube bell. Come in and listen to me here. Is there a possibility that you are defending these jokes and have such a stake in saying everyone who doesn't find them funny is humorless and stupid, whatever, because you have a real stake in elevating mediocrity because you feel mediocre yourself? Is there a possibility? I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm just saying entertain the possibility that might be involved. Entertain the possibility that maybe you don't like women and you're a racist. And that's why you want people to be able to say these things freely. Because I've actually never advocated with tooth and nail scraped for the ability and right to make horrible, nasty, shitty jokes about people that have nothing in them in terms of content except that they're, meant to demean people. I have never felt the need to advocate with every inch of my life for that. So ask yourself why you do. And for the people who don't want to be the outlier in that, Ask yourself why you care if somebody thinks you're a drag, you know? And like all this culture around like, oh, this is cringe, 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 cringe. The people who are being cringe that you're pointing out, that you're giving all this crap to, that you have so much to say about, they are being brave enough to show up in a way that shows them trying, that shows them sweating, that shows them presenting themselves, that shows them expressing themselves. And you're too scared to do that. So all you can do is point and laugh. You're a person sitting on your ass, running a commentary on what someone else is doing. All the people who want to get in people's comments be like, all you have time to do is talk this shit. You must be a lame person. All right, I'm the one who is so bored that all I have time to do is talk shit. But you're the one who only has time to comment on that. You're like a photocopy for photocopy for photo. Like you're like even lower on the totem pole where all you have time to do is have commentary about other people's content. So where are we now? So I'm lame for putting something out and you are what for only commenting on it? Maybe be brave enough to put yourself out there or just, I don't know, shut the fuck up. It's always an option. If anyone does want to kill Tony, let me know. I'll leave this profanity riddled rant at that. And I will see you next week when I'm a little bit less activated.